So let's look at something a little bit more complicated, how you do tables in HTML. Now tables are a major way of structuring text, and you're familiar with tables. They have rows and they have particular columns. So here I've got some information about newspapers, and in the second column I've got their cost, and then in the third column I've got the distribution figures, how many they print and sell. So I've got newspapers, costs and distribution figures. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to insert that into an HTML document. So I'm going to do that by inserting that as an HTML table. Now tables, they can have actual borders around the cells. So you can see here I've got a blue border. I mean, it could be something where we just have a sort of implicit table where you can't actually see the grid layout. How do we actually mark up a table then? Well, that requires us to use a number of different tags. So we start off by wrapping up the whole table using table tags. So at the top we'll place a starting table tag, and at the bottom we'll place a closing table tag. Now for every row that we have inside our table, we're going to use a table row element, a table row tag. And so here you can see it says table row, TR. And what we do is we place those in pairs at the beginning and end of each row. So table row, closing table row, table row, closing table row, table row, closing table row, just like that. Now obviously in my table I've got 3 rows, so I'm going to have 3 pairs of table row tags. Now this is where it becomes a little bit more complicated, because you might think, well, okay, we have table row, so we should have something like table column. It doesn't work like that. What we have is this thing called a table data tag. And what we do is we wrap up every single data element into a pair of table data tags. So I'm just going to take the border away so you can see what I'm actually doing here. So every single element I put a table data pair around. So there you can see I put a pair of tags around the words the Times, around the words the number 1, and then around the number 396500. What I do is I actually repeat that for every single row, just like that. So every piece of data has to have a TD tag wrapped around it. So I'll just do the final one. Here we are. Now there is a trick here, by the way, which is copy and paste. If you know that your table is going to be consistent, so you know that it's going to have the same number of columns in every single row, type the first one in and then simply copy and paste it over and over again and just change the data slightly. So you're having to type all those different table data and table row tags in. Clearly I've got 3 columns, so I'm going to have 3 table data pairs running along, and I've got 3 rows, so I've got 3 table row tags. And if that's shown in the browser window, it would look like this. So you can see I've got my 3 columns. Now you might want to add a heading at the top of the table. So let's see how we do that. Here's my original HTML table with my table rows and my table data tags. And what we do is, if I want to add a heading in, I just make a little bit of space at the top of the table, and I'm going to insert another table row. But instead of inserting table data tags, what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert table header tags. So it's a slightly different tag here. We're not going to use TD because TD is what we use to wrap the data up. We're going to use TH for table header element. And so I simply wrap up the words that are going to form my table heading inside these table header tags. So you can see I've got name, cost and circulation across the top, and if I display that inside a browser it will look like this. You can see I've got name, cost and circulation across the top, and I've got my 3 rows and my 3 columns.